you want to do a project, you determine method, you determine the method, you determine the particular tools, techniques, then you determine the the processes you need to go through. I mean, when you begin to engage in these things, then you are talking about project management. Imagine the way in this part of the world that we carry out projects. Just think about any kind of projects. How much of time do we devote to planning? How much of time do we devote to executing and doing the job or doing what we said we want to do? How much of time do we devote to monitoring and controlling that which we say we want to do, which we have planned and we are doing? And how much of time do we take to evaluate and measure the impact and determine the level of impact that the value or generally the outcome of that project is having on people? So when you begin to, organize your thoughts and processes in this direction, then you are engaging in project management. Okay. And there are 10 key knowledge areas that are involved. We'll get there. Let's continue. There's one other thing that I would like us to define, which has to do with just a minute. I think I lost my page. Okay. Which has to do with who a project manager is. Then last week, I gave you this assignment. Those of you that didn't do the assignment, please just make sure you look at the screen and then on your own, you don't need to submit. Just on your own, make sure you do it. What I asked those that attended the session last week to do is list out 5 projects they are currently doing or that you're currently engaging and determine what deliverables. But I'm talking about deliverables, I'm saying outcomes. What are the outcomes, expected outcomes of that project, of each of the 4 projects? So that was the assignment I gave. Pretty simple. And those are submitted. You all did well, just as a feedback. So let's look at who is a project manager. And before I define who a project manager is, let me ask individually, let me ask us, why do you think you want to be a project manager? Why do you want to be a project manager? Let me ask, why do you want to be a project manager? You can unmute if you want to talk. Please, let's make it more engaging as possible. Why do you want to be a project manager? Who is talking? You want me to call names? Henry, why do you want to be a project manager?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah. Good
Okay,
evening.
so yes, sir. So I want to be a project manager because, well, every aspect of life requires management, like you have explained earlier on. So every aspect of life requires management and planning and organization, and I want to be in a place where I can like impact every areas of life with my understanding of management, and also to make sure I utilize my time as appropriate as possible, making sure that there are relevant results in everything I do and contributing to the growth of the national growth and in general. So that's just like why I want to be a project manager, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Henry, anything anybody says in this class makes sense. So be rest assured, nobody, I mean, whatever it is that is in your mind when you share, trust me, it makes sense. Nothing is wrong here. So
All right, thank you, sir.
thank you for saying that. I'm glad that you're already inclining yourself towards delivery of value. Please, I want you to follow me carefully and listen. It's good that you understand your inclination if you want to be a competent project manager. So the goal is not just for you to say, "Oh, I'm going to what's it called now? I'm going to pass my exam, let me have certification. The goal is not just about certification, right? The goal is about who you are going to become, what you are going to become, right? So it's pretty much good that now you are understanding the fact that there's a value you can deliver, and in the process of you delivering that value, doing things pretty much better than the normal way you would do things, right? Project management skill for life will be able to empower you to do that. So even if you're a medical doctor, if you're a QS, as I see some people already chatting in the box saying I'm a QS, blah blah blah. If you're an architect, if you're a lawyer, if you become the president of the country, if you're a speaker of House of Assembly, whatever it is, or even if you become a housewife, whatever it is that you become at the end of the day in terms of your profession, in terms of, like someone have said to me, he said profession means that what you confess or profess every day, right? Or simply say what you get to do with your life on a daily basis. So if you think your profession is a medical doctor and you are not even practicing, then it's not your profession, right? So what you get to do on a daily basis makes up what your profession is, technically or ideally. So whatever it is that you get yourself engaging on a daily basis, eventually in the near future, this issue of project management skill is going to be a fundamental tool, a fundamental equipping that will enable you to achieve success in any area of your trajectory in life. So just begin to have at the back of your mind that if you are looking for someone that will always deliver value, if you are looking for someone that will always deliver on job, someone that will always pursue success, someone that will always attain high level of success, then that person must be a project manager, right? So that's the kind of personality, that's the kind of portrait, a solution provider, that's the kind of a person, an effective leader, a servant leader. That's the kind of a person that a project manager is. And you start from taking up that role, being a project manager. And it doesn't end there. So don't think that once you become a project manager, you get certified and that's the end. No, it's just the beginning. Because project manager, that role is just the list of the role that you can attain in project management. So everybody starts from a project manager and then you move across the ladder up to the point where you become a project leader or an agile leader or an enterprise leader. So with time, I will explain to you how these the structure of this ladder, how it's scaled up, so that as you start as a project manager, was the next level of attainment, and the next level, and the next level, and the next level. That's one thing. Then the other thing you need to know about who a project manager is the delivery of every project at the level of project management, which is the first stage in project management, as it were. The delivery of every project. When I'm talking about delivery, I'm not just saying execution of projects, because execution is just a phase, is a stage in project management out of the 5 project life cycles. So the delivery means the outcome and the benefit of value that is associated with the project itself, the end users, the key stakeholders, the customers, whichever name you want to put the people who are at the receiving end of the process, when they have fully accepted all the outcomes. That's when we are talking about delivery of the project. So a project is not delivered until when all the outcomes, all the all the deliverables, you remember what you said you were going to do with your project, which are going to be the outcome that you specify in the assignment. When all those things have been done, the person that's supposed to receive the benefit, the value of that, when the person has received it and probably maybe gives a comment or like, oh, well done, or no, you didn't do well, whatever the outcome or the feedback is, when that has been done, then you say value has been delivered at different level. So the person that is responsible, or the person that has the authority. When you're talking about role and responsibility, it speaks to the level of authority that is accorded the person holding the level of authority in that stead. So the level of authority is associated with that personality holding the role and the portfolio, right? So a project manager is the one that is given that authority to ensure that projects are delivered to the key stakeholders. And sometimes to understand deliverables, you might need to go to look at the business case that establishes the project. Because within the business case, you are going to see part of the element of the business case that involve the project goals, the project objectives. Sometimes when you are doing technical projects, which has to do with maybe the thesis, your academic thesis that you write, you always start with aims and objectives, right? After you have your topic, then you have aims and objectives. So translate that into other types of projects. Example that you gave, maybe you are doing a design project or you are doing house chores or any other project in your life. There must be aims, there must be an objective, there must be a reason behind, or what is the expected endpoint, the expected output, the expected outcome of you engaging in that activity or task that we define to be a project, having those 5 elements. So the person in charge to ensure that the process is seamless, every T is crossed and I are dotted, right? That person is the one we call a project manager. So when a project goes wrong, the person that will be held responsible is a project manager. So you see that a lot is expected of a project manager. And that's why there's a need for proper equipping before you can say you want to assume that role. And guess what? Unfortunately, we have high rate of project failure simply because a lot of people that are disposing themselves to be project managers are not certified. They are not competent project managers. Imagine when you enter an hospital and then you realize maybe you go in for a checkup, medical check, or you go in for treatment, and you realize that the doctor, the person that they call the doctor that is to attend to you is uncertified doctor. The person has not gone through medical college, has not gone through medical school, does not have any license to practice as a doctor. Will you allow the person to treat you? Anyone? I mean, let's just be frank here. Let's let's
No,
let's be
sir.
candid. Okay. Or another extreme, maybe you want to go on holiday. Christmas is coming and your family wants to travel. You remember home alone. You don't want to be left back in the house. You pack all your loads, your luggages, and you check in. You get onboarded in the aircraft. Or maybe your parents are very rich. You have a private jet, PJ, and your dad engaged a pilot, someone who's going to fly you over thousands of miles above the sea level. And you are just seated, you just hear from the speaker, someone just announce and tell you, oh, my name is so 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 so, I'm the this, that, and for the next so so hours, or maybe you are flying for a day or two, I'm the one that will be in charge of the cruise and all of that. And guess what? I'm not a licensed pilot, but I've been in this business for a while. So be rest assured that we're going to get to our destination. What will you do at that point in time? Or the person just say, oh, my core discipline is a tailor, or I'm a mechanic, or I'm a carpenter, or I'm the one at the cockpit to take you to your destination. What will you do? Will you remain inside the plane, or you call for an help? Anyone? What will you do when you get to know that your pilot to take you on over 10,000-mile cruise is someone who is not really a licensed or trained pilot? What will you do? Will you remain there? Definitely you reconsider your vacation. I like that, Henry. So I mean, just imagine that kind of disposition. Just imagine that kind of thought. Is it the same thing that we take in anytime we want to go and execute projects? I mean, this is a serious case, it's a serious matter. Because if people can be afraid of their life to the point that They will not stay back in a plane when they know that the pilot is not a licensed or certified pilot. Or a driver is not licensed, does not have a driver's license. So you will not allow the person to definitely drive you. Maybe you just bought a new vehicle, Rolls Royce or Rolls Royce Phantom and all of that, hundreds of millions of naira. You won't give it to someone whom you have not checked over and over again that has the competency and the license, of course, to drive such vehicle. So this is exactly the case when it comes to project management. You don't allow just any riffraff or any Tom, Dick, and Harry to just manage a project simply because anybody can do it. That's a fallacy. And unfortunately, fallacy of easy generalization, as they say in philosophy, does not work out here because there are some failures that are unpardonable. There are some failures that are unpardonable in project management that are irreversible. So you don't want to commit those failures because they can result to death, they can result to loss of lives, destruction of properties, like we see in the case of building collapse, when they are not managed by project manager or they are not even managed at all because they will say, oh, it's not a rocket science. So as much as it's not a rocket science, not everybody flies a plane. Not everybody drives a car. In fact, there are laws and rules and regulations of the land that says when you are not up to 18 years, when you don't have a driver's license, and when you don't validate your driver's license a period of time. I mean, all these things are put to checkmate the excesses of human beings. So how much more when it comes to governing and managing projects? So this is how important it is to know the portrait of who a project manager is. So whatever type of projects that we're undertaking, it's important that you have the right set of a person, the right set of profile or personality who is going to take the role and that responsibility of ensuring that the project deliverables and values are delivered within the specified goals and objectives, or what we call the scope sometimes of the project. Okay, any question? So if I ask us, the summary of everything I've been saying is not everybody is a project manager. That's the summary of everything. Not everybody is a project manager, whereas everybody is undertaking project every day. I mean, consciously, unconsciously, everybody is doing project every day because life itself can be a project or is made up of projects and then becomes an operation because you continue to live until you die, right? So in the process of living, you carry out different projects on a daily basis. And then sometimes you transit into not just doing project, you do program, not just doing program, you do portfolio and enterprise at that level of project management. So, but we'll still touch what all these vocabularies are, what program is, what portfolio enterprise is. Okay, so let me move on. So the other thing to define is who is a stakeholder. Who is a stakeholder? I think I will ask this question randomly. I would like someone to unmute and tell me, what do you think is a stakeholder? I'm sure this is not the first time you are hearing that word, stakeholder, stakeholder. I mean, it's popular with politicians. Sometimes they even say key stakeholder. So who is a stakeholder? Can someone help us out here? Who is a stakeholder? Anybody? Who is a stakeholder?
So please, can I help out here?
Yeah, please go ahead, Julius.
Anyone that has a direct or indirect influence or impact in a project of a project. So that is like simply that's just a stakeholder. Anyone that has a direct or indirect influence or impact on a project. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other person? You don't say the stakeholder is someone who has direct or indirect impact on the project. Okay. Any other opinion? Who is a stakeholder?
Hello,
Yeah,
sir.
Henry. Yes, please.
Okay, in my own opinion, I feel like Stakeholders are like people that actually benefit, like direct beneficiaries from a particular project, either in a positive aspect or negative aspect. So whatever affects the project, regardless of either profit or loss, they are directly affected beneficiaries of the project. So that's how I see stakeholders, sir.
Okay. If I may ask, what's your discipline? What are you studying?
Quantity surveying, sir.
Okay. Uh, because when you mention something around the costs,
I don't want my
so that's what I
I want
wanted
to
to.
I'm a quantity surveyor in the making, sir.
Okay, okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Okay, so both of you are correct, even though that's not the full definition of a key stakeholder or a stakeholder. You are both correct. But I want to. Okay, Esther, please, you can unmute. Go ahead. I can see your hand up.
Yeah, I think if a stakeholder is someone, either an investor, someone that invests in a project to be able to get the outcome at this time.
Okay, so you are looking at a stakeholder as an investor from the perspective of an investment. Okay, that's a good attempt as well. So let me just, I'm sure someone is going to take note of this. Let me just tell you in a simple term what a stakeholder is, or a key stakeholder. Number one, you need to know that a stakeholder is a set of people. I mean, we are talking about human being here. So either you say person or persons or people or a set of people or a group of people, it's all about human beings. So stakeholder are human beings. That's the first thing you need to know about stakeholder or stakeholding, is about human being. I mean, this should begin to suggest a lot of things about project management to you. And you see why I told you ab initio that project management now focuses more on people. Okay. So stakeholder is or are people. That's number one, people or a person. Okay. That has the capacity. Please take notes. The person or the people has or have the capacity to either negatively or positively impact. So he's either of the two extremes or the two paradigms. So the person or the people can either positively or negatively impact the project. Consequently, in the same way, the project can either positively or negatively impact the person or the people. So it's two ways, it's two sides of a coin. If I'm a stakeholder on a project, I can either positively or negatively affect the project, and the same way the project can either positively or negatively affect me. That's a simple way to define what a stakeholder is. And you see these at play in all projects. So when you are now looking at the category of people or human beings or persons, it's like I said, it can be a collection or a group of people as you find them in firms, in industries, in organizations, in parastatals, if you are running projects in the public sector, right? Or community, okay, association, institution. So these are ways by which you can define collection or grouping of people. Okay, you can even say a nation. So if you want to look at it at the large scale, by the time you are doing project management at the level of portfolio, right? You can talk about international organization, So we are talking about project stakeholders. It's made up of human beings, that has and these human beings have the capacity to either positively or negatively affect or impact the project, and conversely, in the same way, the project can positively or negatively impact them. And the list is endless. So here is the first assignment I'm going to give to you. I want you to take it down. This is the first assignment I'm going to give to you. I want you to state one project. So this time around, I'm not going to give you up to 4, just one project. State one project and list all the known key stakeholders that you think are going to be associated or that are associated with that project. So any project, don't forget we defined what project is last week. So within that definition, state one project, mention one project, and list out all the key stakeholders on that project. So that will be your first assignment. I hope that is taken, everybody. Are you with me? Okay. Okay, good. So that's the first project today on stakeholder management. So the other definition that you need to know is project sponsor. I'm sure you'll be wondering, why are we defining and defining and defining? Trust me, once you have all these understanding behind you, every other thing in project management will be pretty much easier. And that's why I'm taking this time to explain them, because even some people who are certified project managers don't understand how to place all these things in the scheme of things in practice. Yeah, I can see your hand up, Sandra. Please, you can unmute and go ahead. Also, Henry, after Sandra, you can unmute.
Sir, please, for the exercise you said we should. I said for the exercise you.
I can hear you. Just go ahead.
I said for the exercise that you asked us to do. Please,
Yes.
can you help us drop the so that we're able to remember when we are doing it, please?
Okay. I will definitely do a follow-up mail. You know, I told you you take attendance. So when you fill attendance, you will receive a correspondence from me, just like I did last week.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, but it's expected that you should be taking notes when you're in class. So I may choose not to remind you as part of the ways to evaluate you. So don't think I will always be reminding you.
Okay,
Okay?
no problem, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And at the end of today, maybe that's another thing I should tell you about ahead, so that everybody make sure you stay put to the end. We are going to be appointing the group rep today. So maybe by the time the group rep is onboarded, the group rep will be able to take charge of that on your behalf. Well, I'm not going to say that much more than that, but I expect that the group rep will be tasked with taking some of these actions on your behalf. And whoever is going to forget, you can hold your group rep responsible. Well, that's just by the way. Henry, you can unmute and let's have your question briefly.
All right, thank you, sir. So I want to get a clarity on your definition of stakeholders. So you said stakeholders are people that have the capacity to affect, either positively or negatively affect a project. So my basis is on the capacity. So if, for instance, I'm a beneficiary of a project, but I don't have the capacity to impact that project, am I not a stakeholder?
Good
Did you get
question.
that, sir?
100%. Good question.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So follow me carefully. What I said is neither here nor there. I said either. In some cases, the stakeholder may have the two capacities in terms of the positive and the negative. In some cases, it might just be one of the two. And there are examples I can give to that effect. But let's even take this example that you gave. You are a beneficiary. So that means you are a stakeholder to the project to which you are benefiting from. Or you use another word, you are a customer. You are an end user. You are a product user, right? Or you are an influencer of a project. So how can you impact that project? Because naturally the project is going to impact you because you are the one receiving the value from the project. So the project is going to impact you either positively or negatively, right? But how
Yes, sir.
can you also now impact the project? It's very simple. If it's a beneficiary policy that requires you to submit maybe some level of documentation, blah blah blah, in order, especially for scholarship, for instance, now, like in my NGO, we give scholarship to people, and it's required that every section the beneficiaries must submit their results and report sheets in order for them to be able to um, um, continue their scholarship. So if any beneficiary does not submit, what does that mean? It means that the person will not be rightly impacted. So the person will be negatively impacted. And if it repeats itself twice, the person might be, the scholarship might be called off, right? So what I'm saying invariably is there is also your own responsibility, your role and responsibility that you will play, even though you are the beneficiary of a project. But you also have a role and responsibility that you're going to play on that project. You are not just an observer, you are not just a passerby. So the actions you are going to take at any stage of the project your inaction can result into negative impact on the project. It can even pose a risk, because when you're talking about risk determines the level of uncertainty. And when you're talking about uncertainty, there's also probability, chances of impact that this risk is going to happen. I mean, it's another level that I hope we'll get when we are talking about the different knowledge areas. We might not go deep into talking about risk management as one of the knowledge areas in project management. But guess what? Once you establish, as I said, you should do this assignment. Every persons or group of people you are going to list as key stakeholders to your project, they are people that they have, in one way or the other, things that you are going to do on that project that may negatively or positively impact the success of that project. And then also, the start of the project or the failure of the project may negatively or positively affect them. That's the meaning of stakeholder. I hope that is clear.
Yes, very much clear, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, awesome. Okay. You see why I said everybody must come in. Some people are just coming in now and they are just distracting me, because our program coordinator is on the trip. She's not around today, so she would have been the one helping us there. So by the time we onboard the group rep, the group rep will be tasked with this. Anytime the coordinator is not around, we'll be able to assist in moderating the session. Okay, so let's quickly move on to project sponsor. Project sponsor, let me just say this. Project sponsor is an example of a stakeholder on projects. A project sponsor is an example of a project stakeholder. Then you also have project team. Project team is also, or team member is also they are also an example, because you have some project that it's just made up, especially if you are working on traditional project management. Sometimes people just work in silo. I don't know whether you fall in that category. You just like to work alone in your space. You don't want to collaborate with people. You don't want to be agile. So it's possible that you are just yourselves team. You are just on your own. You have some people that they will say they are OYO. You are on your own. So these are examples of stakeholder. So a project sponsor. Why we need to define this is also because one of the triple constraints of project has to do with cost, the issue of funding, the issue of budget. So we need to understand who a project sponsor is. A project sponsor is a person, again, is about human being. So when we are talking about sponsorship, we are talking about a human being. We are not talking about non-living. We are talking about a living human being who commits his finances or finances, who commits resources, who commits some kind of investment into a project to ensure the successful delivery of that project. Okay, that's how you will know a project sponsor. Invariably, a project sponsor is someone that makes money available for a project, for the project to be successful. Because cost, budget, funding is one of the three critical constraints, what we call triple constraint in project management. One of the triple constraints. I'll just mention the other two in passing so that you can take notes for those of us that are taking notes. The second one, just imagine you have a triangle. So you have three vertices. The first vertices, which is on top, just above, is cost. Then on your extreme right, you have scope. Okay, scope, project scope. Then on your extreme left, the third vertex, then you have what we call project time or schedule. You have time. Okay, so those are the three critical project constraints. We have other constraints. It's not limited to these three, but when you are talking about triple constraints in project management, these are the three. You have your cost or budget, you have your scope, then you have your time or schedule. Okay, so project sponsor is someone who makes money available for project to be executed. So the person is only focused on what you are going to use my money to achieve. So usually, sometimes a project sponsor can be the project initiator. A project sponsor can be someone who is the project Another word you use for sponsor is financier, a project financier. So if you are looking for a simpler word, you use a project financier. But the terminology we use in project management is sponsor. So very, very important. Okay, let's move on. So the other terminology is project team member. I won't dwell so much on this because I've mentioned it in passing. One of the things that we are promoting now that we know that projects is all about people, and people has to be involved for a project to be successful. People derive values and benefits from projects, and people determine the success of projects. So we are gradually eliminating the concept of working in silo, working in alone, driving project alone. Okay, we are gradually eliminating that concept because it wastes, such concepts or such practices waste resources, delay time, and also reduce the chances of how much of success you're going to achieve. For instance, if you are to do 10 things on a project for you to be able to achieve a particular set of value or benefits, if you bring in 3 other people to come and join you to do it, that means there are opportunities that you can achieve greater results faster in a better way, right? Because 2 heads are better than 1. So bringing people together with common interest, common goal, with specific terms of reference, okay, which is associated in alignment with the project objectives. Bringing them together is what we call the process of team formation or team development. The process of team development or team formation. So when you go through that, and it's made up of 5 processes. It's made up of that 5 processes or 5 stages, right? So when you go through that process, that's when you can now talk about you having a team. Okay, so you don't just develop a team anyhow. There is a way in project management by which you go about team formation. Okay, and I'm going to, this is the second assignment I'm giving us. I want you to research and write briefly on the 5 stages or 5 processes of team formation. When you go online, you see different narratives around this, but I want the one that is specifically mentioned and given about Dr. Tuckman. That's the name of the man that developed this model of team development or team formation. So he mentioned about five stages or processes. Stage 1 is what we called the development. Stage 1 is what we call the team forming. Team forming. That's stage 1, team forming. Then stage 2 is what we call team storming. Number 1 is forming, number 2 is storming, team storming. Then number 3 is what we call team numbing. Number 4 is team performing. And the 5th one is team adjourning. So we have forming, we have storming, we have numbing, we have performing, and then we have adjourning. Those 5, I want you to write briefly. Never mind, I'm going to send this as part of, so I've given you 2 assignments now. So I'm going to send this as part of the correspondence I'll be sending to everyone via email. So make sure you watch out for my email by tomorrow. So that's the second assignment. So just brief explanation about each of that stage. Each of the stages, so that we are going to be on the same page. So by the time you take people that you are bringing together to collaborate on a project, people you are bringing together because there is going to be an alignment towards project objectives and project goals. When you bring them together to work together, imagine people from different backgrounds, people from different ideologies, people with different lifestyles and all of that. You bring them together within a box for them to relate and work together, right? That's what we call a team, a project team. And depending on the project, you can have an expanded team, you can have a robust team, you can have a large team, you can have team at different levels. Okay, you can have low level, medium level, and high level team, depending on the type of project. So usually the project you are managing or you are to manage determines the type of team that you are going to form, and then the kind of team members you need to have in your team for you to be able to achieve success. So in summary, when I define to you who a project manager is the other time, a project manager, please, you need to take note of this. I used to fight a lot of my friends on this concept of project manager's role. A project manager is not the doer. A project manager is not the performer. A project manager is not the executioner of projects. Okay, when I'm saying executioner, performer, doer, they are all the same thing. They all mean the same thing. He's not the one that will carry out the work activities. When you have a project aims, objectives, scope now broken down into work packages, and work packages broken down into relatable, smaller chunks of work activities and tasks, the person or set of people that carry out each of these tasks at different times specified across the project timeline are the people we call team members. So a project manager invariably must have team members that he or she is going to work with. And what it does with the team is to have a direct oversight on the team membership, on the team activity, by defining roles and responsibility for the team members, right? Then you assign task, you specify task, you coordinate the activity and the performance of work that the team members are going to do. So you see how structured project management is going on from here, because you start from one person who perhaps might be the project sponsor or the initiator or financier or whatever role the person is taking as a key stakeholder on the project, then engages the person or the set of people or organization engages or engage a project manager, right? And once the project manager comes on board, then begin the process of team formation. And mind you, this does not always follow this sequence on projects. But in traditional method, this is how it goes. But if you are using agile or hybrid method, doesn't necessarily follow this sequence. Sometimes you are engaged as a project manager and they've already formed your team. So how are you going to do? Are you going to work with people that you don't even know how they came about? Or a project is ongoing, and at a point in time when the project is at the execution phase, that's when you're engaged to come and manage the project. Probably maybe they just fired or lay off the previous project manager and you come in. It doesn't mean that you have to now restart the process all over again. No, not at all. We are still going to deal with some of these issues of how to ensure that you follow the same principle and processes and apply the same knowledge, tools, and techniques for you to be able to get desirable outputs at the end of the day. So these are how you go about your team development, and of course setting your team in motion for optimum performance and productivity. Okay, so this is one of the things that you need to now understand about team management, because immediately you establish and form your team, then the next thing you have to think about in project management is how to manage your team, because that's your responsibility. You don't just assign tasks, you don't just specify roles and responsibility to your team. You have to manage them. And when you're talking about team management, we are talking about people management, because human beings make up a team, right? Or make up teams. So we are talking about how you manage people. So this is now becoming a little bit complex from here onward, because in order to manage people, if you are just managing tasks and activities, you can say, okay, let me focus only on technical abilities, right? If I'm a doctor, so if I'm just to manage the process of operating people or doing medical checks for people or examination on people, on human beings, after all, I've exercised several times and done practice on cadaver, right? So it shouldn't be difficult, but it's not just as simple as that. Here you have people, and like Adam Smith, father of economics, has said, human beings are highly illogical. Human beings are highly irrational, especially when you put them within the confines of their needs, where you have where you have limited resources per time, right? So human behavior varies and changes across board when you juxtapose them with their needs and limited resources. So someone you see with this kind of behavior tomorrow might put up a different behavior, and you're like, is it not the same person that you think you know? Not at all. You know the person, and at the same time, you don't know the person. So there has to be other level of skill acquisition. There has to be some other type of upskilling that you need for yourself beyond your technical skills in order for you to be able to perform effectively in managing people. Okay, in managing people. And that's where in PMI there's an introduction into the learning process in becoming a certified project manager that will call upskilling on power skills, interpersonal skills, what we call uh, uh, um, interpersonal relationship skills. We talk about effective communication. We talk about the power of negotiation. We talk about effective leadership. We talk about emotional intelligence. We talk about critical thinking, creative thinking. You know, even as simple as uh, uh, um, learning how to be quiet. You know, solitude. All of these things are interpersonal skills, learning to say no and when to say no, and when you say no, know that your no you actually means no, you know. So I mean, the core values of a project manager, embracing all of these things, are part of what you have to bring to bear when you are managing a team. So this is where the expectation of upholding the ethics of um, project management comes in. I'm going to share with you a document as part of the correspondence I'm sending to you after this session today. I'm going to share a document from Project Management Institute that explains the four core values, what we call the code of ethics and professional conduct that governs the professional conduct of certified project managers by PMI. I'm going to share with you. There are four of them. So you will see the mandatory and the non-mandatory core values, the mandatory and non-mandatory values. So you need to begin to embrace and begin to, develop yourself towards these core values. In rounding up today, I'm going to introduce you to the next phase of our discussion in this training session or in this journey. And that has to do with talking about the 5 process groups or 5 stages in project management. Next week, we are going to start with 1, and then we'll take it up from there. There are 5 of them. So when you're talking about project management, the entire project management narrative, the entire story about project management, the entire talk around project management has been broken down into what we call the process groups or project life cycle or project stages and phases. So we have 5 of them. The first one is the one we called project initiation. From the word initiation, that word is a noun, right? So from that word, it's talking about you engaging in starting up the idea of having a project. And that's what we mean by initiating. So project initiation is talking about how you kick off and start a project. It's usually the beginning of any project. So no project starts without you going through the process of initiation. So by the time we go through this process of initiation and you see all that is involved in initiating the project, then you will have a rethink that on a daily basis as you go about your life, is this how you initiate projects? Or when you even look at project as an advanced stage, when you look at the project at a high level, albeit maybe road construction, building a house, construction of bridges, all these other, multi-billion projects that our government executes, you ask yourself whether they go through all these processes or these phases for them to be able to have a project, and that can give you a quick reason why many project fails. Okay, the second phase or stage or process is the one we called planning, project planning. I'm sure you'll all be familiar with this, or you might have heard about this project planning. That's the second phase or second stage of project management, planning. The third one is project execution. Project execution. That's the third phase of project management, project execution. Then the fourth one is project monitoring and controlling. Project monitoring and controlling. I usually call it M&C, project M&C. And then the final one, which is the big masquerade in the house, is what we call project closing. When we get to discuss about it, I'll tell you why it's the big masquerade. Because many projects start and doesn't close. Many projects start and don't close. And you ask yourself, is this really a project or is not a project? And when you go by the definition I gave, talking about those 5 elements of what a project is, you discover that every project must close because every project must have a start and must have a end. Okay. So this is where we're going to stop today. Before I share, I see quite a number of people have dropped. This is where we're going to stop today. It's because we didn't start early enough. I always like us to keep to time, 1 hour. But we are going to stop here today. I'm going to share the link right now. So if you have any question from the other 2 definitions I gave us in handing all the terminologies and then coming to start with the project processes I've mentioned to us. If you have any question, please bring it up. Or if it's going to be about the 2 assignments I've given you, please bring it up. Any question? So I know by now, if anybody stop you on the way or if anybody asks you all those terminologies, what's project management, what's a project, what's an operation, what's a program, what's a portfolio, who is a stakeholder, who is a project manager, I'm sure, who is a team member, I'm sure you can answer all these without looking at the books. Any question? I want to ask question, because asking question is part of the deal. It's part of learning process. If you ask question, you can never miss the road, and there is no silly question. Any question from anyone? Abdurrahman, you are saying that you missed. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that I can paste. So you said you missed the question. Okay, just make sure you submit. I mean, you sign up. What's it called? You enter the attendance list. I'm going to do a mail to everybody, and then you see the 2 assignments there. The first one, I ask you to select a project and list all the known stakeholders, key stakeholders. Then the second one, I told you about the process of team formation. I said, write short notes on the 5 stages or processes of team formation by Dr. Tuckman, Bruce Tuckman. That's the full name of the man, Dr. Bruce Tuckman. So I said you should write briefly, just a sentences, I mean, 1 sentence or 2 sentences on that, and that suffices. And then you send across to me. Okay, I'm sharing the link now. Just a minute, please. So please, if you have any question, you can bring it up. Let me see again in the chat. Is anyone asking question? Oh, okay. Friday, you're asking whether if you can get the recording. Yes, definitely. Everyone in this class today will definitely get the recording. So that's why I insist that you should make sure you fill the form. I mean, sorry, the attendance list, which I'm dropping in few seconds now. So you can look at the chat box. Now you will see the attendance list. I mean, the attendance form there. So make sure you fill the attendance form. Very important. Very, very important. I just drop it now. A user. So everybody should fill the attendance form. Sandra, you just came back. I just dropped the attendance form. Let me repost it. Oh, okay. Thank you, Over, for pinning it. So please make sure you fill the attendance form. Does anyone has any question? Because everybody seems very quiet today. Adetomiwa, do you have any question? Christabel, do you have any question? Okay, Gideon, you said, what strategies do you use to ensure stakeholder aligned throughout the project life cycle? Awesome. I mean, these are the kind of questions I want, because at the end of the day, with the way I want to take us through this learning, because this is not the learning, this training, this mentorship per se is not the one that will take you. Sorry, my network just went off and on my other device. So let me be sure that you can hear me. Can you all hear me? Okay, good. So if you are talking about how to make stakeholders align to project, then you are looking holistically at what we call project stakeholder management. Okay, there are processes you go through, you follow. There are basic principles, there are tools and techniques that you need to engage when you are doing stakeholder management. And let me just give you a simple secret about project management. There's something we call ITTO. I mentioned that last week, I think. ITTO. So if you're not here last week, please make sure you put it down. I stand for, ITTO is an acronym. ITO. I stand for input. The first T stand for tools or templates. The second T stand for techniques. And then the O stand for output or outcome. So it goes that, like you have in computing, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you put in into the computer is what the processor processes and then compile for you data and then give you an output. It's the same thing that works in project management. Whatever you input, you have tools, you have templates, and using techniques in order for you to process, going through about 47 processes, tailored processes, tailored, considered processes that will give you desirable outcome or output. That's what it's all about. So for take one of the knowledge areas, 10 knowledge areas, one of the knowledge areas is the one we call stakeholder management. What are the processes involved when you are engaging in stakeholder management? Number one is the one we called stakeholder identification. Is a process. There's a process called stakeholder identification. Sorry, someone is asking a question. Attendance list is bringing the last one. Yes, is the same attendance, is the same thing. So go ahead. You see that is showing week 2. If it's not showing week 2, let me know. It must show week 2. Once you open it, it must show week 2. Let me know if it's not week 2 that I posted. Can someone confirm that? Is it attendance for week 2? Okay. What was it showing? Aha, it's week 2. So which one are you using, Sandra? It must show week 2. Even on top of you will see attendance for week 2. So just go ahead and fill it. That's the attendance. Let me also try to open it from here. So like I said, when you are going through stakeholder management, the first thing is for you to do stakeholder identification. You need to know who these stakeholders are. So we have tools and templates that we use and techniques that you use in identifying who the stakeholders are. Then after that, you have to analyze the identified stakeholder, because like I said, you are processing data. So it's like you collected data, names, and all of that. So when you are now doing the analysis, you want to analyze them using different techniques. Either you are using the 2-dimensional techniques or 3-dimensional techniques. There are different templates around this too, right? So you want to know the level of their power, the level of their influence, their position, because if you don't determine all this and then put them within a matrix where you can cross their interest and influence against their power and influence and role and all of that. At the end of the day, it might be someone who has high interest against high power that will wrongly influence your project to project failure. Okay. Then by the time you analyze them, you are going to also analyze them on what level of engagement do you need to have with each of them. So it's not a small joke. I mean, when you're talking about project management, you don't look at it on the surface value. You look at it in the nitty-gritty of all the processes that you need to follow. And that is why many people, when they don't follow the processes and they will tell you that they are doing project management, at the end of the day, when the project fails, you will know exactly the reason why the project failed. It's like someone that is saying he's going from Lagos to Ibadan and then get to Beja and said he has arrived and then take a detour and follow through Ogudu or maybe through Ikeja and goes back to Island. Did the person arrive as Ibadan? No, not at all. The person did not even leave the shore of Lagos. Did not even cross into Ogun State. Okay, so that's what it means to many people when they don't go through the processes and then they'll tell you that they've done projects. So you can easily tell what the outcome of the project is. So you can easily manage expectations from stakeholders when you have followed through the process of managing stakeholder, which is stakeholder management. Identify them, you analyze their stake on the project, which you have identified. Then you know the kind of communication management you need or communication plan you need to put in place. Some of them will want you to communicate with them almost every day or every time. Some of them might want to be part of decision making on projects. So you will have categorized each of these stakeholders according to the identified and analyzed structure or matrix on projects. So it then begins, I mean, it goes that once you have all these in place within your project management plan, then it's easier for you to be able to take them through with an experience. Okay, because they must also experience the project with an experience, either directly involved or indirectly involved. They also want to have an experience, have some sense of ownership, as simple as even community members, because they are key stakeholders. You might want to also determine what level of involvement they need to have on projects. So these are things that you do when we say that you are managing projects. Okay, it seems. Oh, okay. I thought my network threw me out. So these are things that we do when we are talking about project management. Okay, so let's end here. If you have any other question, please feel free to reach out to me via email or on the WhatsApp group. And be rest assured that other mentors who are there in the group will also respond to you. So please take advantage of the group and the communication. Then on the last note, I want a volunteer. Okay, I want a volunteer who will be the group representative for your cohort. Among those of you who stayed back till now, I need someone to volunteer as the group representative, so that will be the last thing that we're going to do before we call it a day. Who is volunteering? Anybody? You can unmute and volunteer.
I will volunteer, sir.
Who is
I am, sir.
speaking?
Adetomiwa.
Okay, Adetomiwa. Okay, and I heard the male voice too.
Eyoza.
Yes, sir. It was me.
Sorry, what's the name? Sorry, I'm now on my phone,
Emmanuel
so
Gideon.
I mean I've logged
Emmanuel
out of
Gideon.
the system. Sorry,
Emmanuel Gideon.
Emmanuel Gideon. Okay, so I have Adetomiwa. Oh, I can see Eyoza's hand too. Okay, let me just pull the three of you in. So I will reach out to Eyoza, I'll reach out to Adetomiwa, and I'll also reach out to Gideon. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for staying till now. I know we pushed over the session today over the hour.
Please, the attendance list.
I posted it. Let me repost it. I guess maybe you left then. Let me repost it. Please, before you leave, make sure you fill the attendance list. It's very important. Anybody that doesn't fill the list will not receive the communication from me. Please, make sure you fill it. I just reposted it now. So from next week, we are going to move a bit faster. So we have left the preliminaries now. The preambles we have left. So from next week, 1 hour, we're going to move faster. So we'll start talking about the project's life cycles from next week, Saturday. We'll start talking about the process groups. Okay. I hope everybody has filled the form, the attendance list before I end the session. Okay, so catch you all next week. And please make sure you do the assignment I gave you and submit in time. Okay? All the best in your studies. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye. Christopher, you said you can't fill the form. Well, I will advise that you just copy the link out. Make sure you don't share with anyone that is not here. Copy it out. I will still leave it out till later this evening. So you still have till midnight for you to check it. So maybe anytime you have your internet back, you can still do it. But make sure you don't share with anyone that is not here in the class, please. And like I said in the group, anybody that misses twice consecutively is going to be removed from the group. Imagine all the things we discussed today. How will the person who is not here today be able to catch up with last week and today? So because at the end of the day, by the time we give you your projects and some other group exercises, I don't want anybody to now be the one that will be pulling the entire group backwards and be saying they don't understand what they need to do because you have not been following all across the timeline. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye, sir.